Awakening the inner self begins with the profound journey of self-awareness and reflection. It is the first step toward discovering the truth of who you really are beneath the noise, expectations, and conditioning that the world has layered upon you. Most people move through life reacting rather than reflecting, existing rather than truly living. They become entangled in the roles they play: student, professional, parent, friend, and forget the deeper being that exists beneath all those identities. Self-awareness is the light that pierces through that fog. It is the quiet realization that you are not merely your experiences, your successes, or your failures, but the consciousness observing them all. To awaken your inner self, you must first learn to see yourself clearly. This means paying attention to your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors without judgment. It's about understanding why you think the way you do, why you respond to certain situations with fear or anger, and why you cling to certain beliefs or habits. When you start observing yourself with honesty, you begin to uncover the hidden patterns that have been shaping your life unconsciously. This process is not always comfortable. Reflection often reveals truths we've avoided, our insecurities, our attachments, our unresolved pain. But this awareness is necessary, for you cannot change what you refuse to see. Self-awareness is like holding a mirror to your soul. At first, it may show you things that you would rather not confront. But as you continue to look, that mirror begins to reveal not just flaws, but wisdom, your true essence that exists beyond all conditioning. You start realizing that your worth is not determined by external achievements or validation, but by the simple fact of your existence. This realization is liberating, because when you know yourself deeply, you stop seeking approval from the outside world. You begin to live from within rather than being defined by what surrounds you. Reflection is the tool that deepens self-awareness. It is the act of looking inward, questioning, and understanding the why behind the what. When you take time to sit in silence, to write in a journal, or to meditate on your thoughts, you begin to notice recurring patterns. What triggers your fears, what fuels your joy, what drains your energy, and what nourishes your spirit. These moments of reflection act as small awakenings within themselves, moments where truth begins to replace illusion. Self-awareness also invites humility. The more you observe yourself, the more you realize how much of your life has been shaped by unconscious programming, beliefs inherited from family, culture, or society. You begin to see how often you've acted out of fear or habit instead of choice. But rather than judging yourself, awareness allows you to approach these realizations with compassion. It teaches you that growth comes not from guilt, but from gentle honesty. When you look at yourself with kindness, you create space for transformation. As you develop self-awareness, a quiet strength emerges. You start recognizing that you have the power to choose how you respond to life. Instead of reacting impulsively, you pause, reflect, and act with intention. You begin to understand that your inner world shapes your outer reality, that peace, happiness, and fulfillment are not found by changing others or circumstances, but by changing your relationship with yourself. This inner clarity begins to dissolve confusion. You no longer chase every external goal blindly, because you start understanding your deeper motivations. You can tell when your actions come from your true desires and when they stem from fear or ego. This awareness becomes your compass, guiding you toward authenticity and away from illusion. You start noticing how every experience, no matter how painful or joyful, is an opportunity to learn more about yourself and evolve. Self-awareness also awakens empathy. When you understand your own emotions deeply, you naturally develop compassion for others. You realize that everyone is fighting silent battles within themselves, just as you are. This realization softens your heart. You stop judging others quickly because you see reflections of your own struggles in them. In this way, awareness not only connects you to yourself, but also connects you to humanity. However, self-awareness is not a destination. It is a continuous practice. The mind is constantly changing, and so is your inner landscape. Reflection must become a daily rhythm, a sacred habit of checking in with yourself, asking, am I living aligned with my truth? Am I acting from love or fear? These small questions, when asked consistently, slowly peel back the layers of illusion and bring you closer to your essence. When you begin this process of awareness and reflection, you start to notice something profound. There is a stillness within you that remains untouched by chaos. Beneath your emotions and thoughts, there is a calm presence observing everything without judgment. That presence is your true self, the consciousness that witnesses but is never disturbed. Becoming aware of this presence is the first taste of awakening, and this awareness naturally leads to the second step, letting go of illusions and ego. Once you've looked inward and begun to understand the patterns of your mind, you start to see how much of your suffering comes from the illusions you hold. The belief that you must always be right, that you must constantly prove yourself, or that your worth depends on how others see you. Self-awareness reveals these illusions. Letting go of them frees you from their control. So, the journey of awakening begins with awareness but does not end there. Awareness is the seed. Reflection is the water that helps it grow. Together, they prepare the ground for transformation. Without awareness, there can be no awakening. Because you cannot awaken to a self you do not know. When you reflect deeply, you start to recognize that awakening is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who you've always been beneath the noise. In the stillness of reflection, you begin to realize that everything you seek, peace, clarity, love, meaning, already exists within you. You've simply been too distracted by the outer world to notice it. Self-awareness brings your attention back home, reminding you that awakening is not a journey outward, but inward. It is not about gaining something new, but about shedding everything that keeps you from seeing the truth. Thus, self-awareness and reflection mark the true beginning of awakening. The inner self, they are the gentle opening of the inner door. The moment you start looking within instead of seeking answers outside. And when you take that first step inward, you begin to see not only who you are, but who you can become. After awakening begins through self-awareness and reflection, the next essential step in the journey of awakening the inner self is letting go of illusions and the grip of the ego. If self-awareness is the light that allows you to see clearly within, then letting go of illusions is the process of cleaning the lens through which you see the world and yourself. Without this cleansing, the light of awareness gets distorted by fear, pride, comparison, and false beliefs. To awaken the inner self fully, you must confront the illusions that keep you asleep, the illusions of control, identity, and separation that the ego constructs. The ego is not your enemy. It is simply the false self that you have been conditioned to believe you are. It is the part of your mind that says, I am this name, this job, this success, this failure, this story. The ego thrives on comparison, always wanting to be more, better, smarter, richer, or stronger than others. It seeks validation through external means because it is afraid of emptiness. It feeds on attachment to possessions, people, opinions, and outcomes, because it believes that without these things, it will cease to exist. The truth, however, is that the ego is not who you are. It is only a shadow of your true self, a mask you've worn for so long that you've forgotten it's not your real face. Letting go of illusions begins when you start to observe the ego with the awareness you cultivated in the first stage. As you reflect on your thoughts and emotions, you begin to notice how often your mind reacts from fear, jealousy, or insecurity. You notice how you feel offended when someone criticizes you, how you crave praise, or how you constantly compare yourself to others. These are not random feelings. They are signs of the ego trying to protect its fragile identity. The ego whispers, if I'm not admired, I'm worthless, or if I fail, I'm nothing. But awakening happens when you realize these thoughts are illusions. They are not the truth of who you are. They are the stories your mind tells to preserve its comfort zone. When you begin to recognize these illusions for what they are, their power weakens. You start to detach from them, no longer seeing them as your identity, but as passing clouds in the sky of consciousness. This detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means freedom. You can still experience emotions, achieve goals, and form relationships. But you no longer depend on them for your sense of worth. You start to understand that your true self is unchanging, eternal, and unaffected by external circumstances. It is the silent awareness behind all experiences. Letting go of illusions also means questioning the beliefs that shape your perception. Many people spend their entire lives trapped in inherited ideas about success, happiness, and self-worth. They chase achievements because society tells them that success equals fulfillment, or they seek validation because they believe love must be earned. But when you awaken, you realize these are illusions, cultural constructs, not universal truths. You begin to ask, who decided this is what happiness looks like? Why do I measure my worth by external standards? These questions dissolve illusions and open the doorway to true freedom. One of the most persistent illusions the ego creates is the illusion of separation, the belief that you are alone and disconnected from others, from nature, and from the universe. The ego thrives on division. It says, "This is me and that is you," or "I must compete to survive." But awakening reveals a deeper truth. Beneath all appearances, everything is connected. Every being, every breath, every moment is part of a single, living consciousness. When you let go of the illusion of separation, compassion naturally arises. You begin to see yourself in others and others in yourself. You realize that kindness toward another is kindness toward your own soul. Letting go of illusions also means releasing the need to control everything. The ego constantly resists what it cannot manipulate. It fears uncertainty, failure, and loss. But awakening teaches surrender. You begin to trust that life unfolds with intelligence, that there is a divine rhythm guiding everything, even when you can't see it. Surrender is not giving up. It is letting go of resistance. It is saying, I trust the flow of life more than I trust my fear. When you release control, you discover peace because you are no longer at war with reality. This stage of letting go is deeply connected to the previous one, self-awareness and reflection. Without awareness, you cannot recognize illusions. Without reflection, you cannot identify where the ego hides. Awareness gives you the vision. Letting go gives you liberation. Together, they allow you to see truth clearly and live with lightness. When you reflect deeply, you start to notice the ego's patterns. When you let go, you transcend them. The relationship between the two is like breathing in and out. Awareness draws truth in. Letting go releases what is false. Letting go of illusions also creates space for humility. The ego seeks to be superior, but the awakened self understands equality. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is thinking of yourself less. It is recognizing that your existence is not about proving anything, but about experiencing and evolving. This humility opens the heart, making you receptive to wisdom, guidance, and love. When you stop pretending to know everything, life begins to teach you. The process of releasing the ego is not instantaneous. It is gradual and often uncomfortable. The ego resists death, clinging desperately to its narratives. You might feel lost at times, unsure of who you are without your old identities. But this uncertainty is sacred. It is the space between illusion and awakening, between sleeping and seeing. In that space, something beautiful happens. You begin to glimpse your true self, the awareness untouched by fear or pride. As you let go of illusions, peace becomes your natural state. You no longer react impulsively to challenges because you see them for what they are, temporary waves on the surface of consciousness. You stop blaming others or circumstances because you understand that everything you experience is a reflection of your inner state. You stop chasing happiness because you realize it has been within you all along. This is the quiet freedom that comes from awakening. When you release the illusions and soften the ego's grip, you create inner stillness, the doorway to the next stage of awakening. The more illusions you shed, the more you begin to experience silence. Not just the absence of sound, but the deep stillness that exists beyond thought. That stillness is not emptiness, it is fullness, the presence of pure being. It is where peace lives. Thus, the journey naturally flows from self-awareness and reflection into letting go of illusions and ego. Awareness helps you see the illusions. Letting go allows you to dissolve them. When the false self begins to fade, you start to experience a profound sense of lightness and presence. And from this stillness arises the next step, connecting with inner stillness, where you move beyond thought and emotion into direct communion with your true essence. After self-awareness awakens the light within, and the illusions of the ego begin to fade, a new dimension of consciousness starts to reveal itself, inner stillness. This stillness is not simply the absence of noise or distraction. It is the deep silence that exists beneath every thought, every emotion, and every experience. It is the quiet essence of your being that has always been there, patiently waiting for you to return to it. When you let go of illusions and detach from the ego's endless chatter, you begin to feel the soft hum of peace that has never left you. Connecting with inner stillness is the heart of awakening, because it allows you to experience your true self, not as a concept or belief, but as a living presence. The world around us is loud. Every day we are bombarded with thoughts, responsibilities, opinions, and constant noise. Our minds are filled with plans, worries, and comparisons. We move so quickly trying to accomplish, achieve, and prove that we forget how to be still. We identify with the movement, the doing, rather than the being. But awakening requires a shift from outer noise to inner silence, from reaction to observation, from seeking to simply being. Inner stillness is where you stop trying to become and finally begin to be. When you connect with this stillness, you begin to notice that beneath every thought there is a silent space. This space is not empty, it is awareness itself. It is the same awareness that noticed your thoughts during self-reflection, and the same presence that watched the illusions of the ego fade away. Inner stillness is that awareness resting in itself, without being pulled by the distractions of the world or the demands of the mind. It is the point where consciousness recognizes itself, pure, vast, and free. To reach this stillness, one must first go through the process described in the previous steps. Self-awareness allows you to see what occupies your mind. Letting go of illusions clears away the noise of false identity. Now, with a clearer inner space, you can begin to listen to the silence that has always been present. This connection is not something you create, it is something you uncover. It was never gone. It was only hidden beneath the noise of thoughts and desires. Meditation, mindfulness, and solitude are pathways that help you reconnect with this silence. But more than any practice, it requires presence, the ability to be fully here, in this moment, without judgment or resistance. When you sit quietly and watch your thoughts come and go, you begin to see that you are not your thoughts, you are the awareness watching them. That realization deepens with practice until you can remain centered even amid chaos. The storms of life still pass overhead, but within you, there is calm. Inner stillness is not about withdrawing from life. It is about engaging with life from a place of balance and clarity. When you are rooted in stillness, external circumstances lose their power to disturb you. You may face difficulties, but you no longer react impulsively. You respond with wisdom and calm because you are anchored in something deeper than the surface of experience. This stability allows you to live with grace, no matter what arises. The connection to inner stillness also transforms how you perceive time and self. In the ego's world, life is always about becoming, chasing the next goal, fearing the next loss. But in stillness, You realize that you are not moving towards something. You are already complete. There is no race, no finish line, no comparison. The present moment becomes enough. Every breath, every heartbeat becomes a reminder. You are exactly where you need to be. This realization brings a peace that no external success could ever offer. Stillness also brings clarity. When the mind is noisy, decisions are clouded by fear and confusion. But when you rest in silence, truth becomes self-evident. Answers emerge naturally because the noise has subsided, and your intuition, the voice of your inner self, can finally be heard. This is why so many great thinkers, mystics, and artists speak of inspiration arriving during silence. Stillness is the bridge between the human and the divine, between logic and intuition. It is the language through which the soul speaks. As you deepen your connection with inner stillness, love and compassion also begin to arise naturally. When the mind quiets, the heart opens. You begin to feel a deep sense of unity with everything around you. The boundaries between you and others, between me and them, start to dissolve. You see beauty in simple things, the sound of rain, the touch of wind, the smile of a stranger. Life stops being something to conquer and becomes something to cherish. The relationship between letting go of illusions and connecting with inner stillness is intimate and transformative. When you let go of the ego's noise, the constant need to control, compare, or prove, you create the silence in which stillness can be felt. The illusions are like waves on the surface of the ocean. Stillness is the depth beneath. Once the waves calm, the depth reveals itself. Without releasing illusions, stillness cannot be experienced. Without stillness, illusions will continue to arise. They are two sides of the same awakening process, clearing and returning. Inner stillness is not something you attain once and keep forever. It is a state of continual return. Life will test your peace. Challenges, fears, and desires will try to pull you back into noise, but each time you return to your stillness, it grows stronger. Each time you choose silence over reaction, awareness over distraction, the connection deepens. Over time, you begin to live from this stillness, not as a practice, but as a way of being. This state of stillness is also the foundation for spiritual strength. When you are deeply connected to your inner silence, external chaos cannot shake you. People may misunderstand you. Situations may turn against you. But within, there remains a quiet confidence that everything is as it should be. You no longer need to fight life because you are in harmony with it. This is true power. Not domination or control, but peace that cannot be disturbed. And as you live from this stillness, a new light begins to shine through you. You become calm in the storm, centered in uncertainty, peaceful amid pressure. You start to influence others not by words, but by your presence. People feel safe and inspired around those who are anchored in peace. This is how awakening spreads, not through preaching, but through silent radiance. Thus, connecting with inner stillness is both a continuation and a culmination of the earlier steps. Self-awareness opened your eyes. Letting go of illusions freed your heart. And now inner stillness reveals your soul. From this sacred silence emerges your truest power, the ability to live consciously, lovingly, and fearlessly. And it is from this foundation that the next stage naturally unfolds, embracing authenticity, where your awakened inner self begins to express its truth fearlessly in the outer world, turning stillness into strength and awareness into action. Once you have awakened to self-awareness, shed the illusions of the ego, and found peace in inner stillness, the next step in the journey of awakening, the inner self is embracing authenticity. This stage is where your inner awakening begins to manifest in your outer life. It is where being becomes expression, where you no longer hide behind masks, but allow your true essence to shine through every word, action, and decision. Embracing authenticity means living in alignment with who you truly are, not who the world expects you to be. It is the courage to express your truth, guided by your inner self rather than fear or approval. Authenticity is not about being perfect or flawless. It is about being real. It means you no longer shape yourself to fit into molds designed by others. You no longer pretend to be someone else just to gain acceptance. Instead, you begin to live from the core of your being, the same awareness and stillness you discovered within. Your words begin to match your values, your actions align with your beliefs, and your choices reflect your truth. When authenticity takes root, you experience a sense of integrity that no external validation can provide. You begin to feel whole because there is no longer a division between who you are inside and who you appear to be outside. To embrace authenticity, you must first confront the fears that keep you from being yourself. Most people hide behind masks because they fear rejection, judgment, or failure. From childhood, we are taught to conform, to meet expectations, to earn love by pleasing others, and to suppress our individuality to avoid disapproval. These patterns become deeply ingrained. The ego, which thrives on image and acceptance, convinces us that we must wear different faces to survive, but awakening reveals a different truth. The very thing you are afraid to show the world, your true self, is your greatest gift. When you connect with inner stillness, as described in the previous stage, you begin to sense that your worth is not dependent on anyone's opinion. Stillness reveals a kind of unshakable peace that cannot be taken away by praise or destroyed by criticism. From this grounded awareness, the fear of being yourself starts to fade. You begin to realize that no one else can live your life for you. No one else can fulfill your purpose, and no one else has your unique voice, heart, or perspective. Authenticity is your soul's signature. It is the way life expresses itself uniquely through you. Living authentically does not mean rejecting others or rebelling against the world. It means honoring your truth while respecting the truths of others. It is the quiet strength of knowing who you are, even when the world misunderstands you. When you live from authenticity, you no longer need to compare yourself or compete. You understand that every individual is walking their own path, shaped by their own lessons and experiences. This understanding brings humility, compassion, and confidence all at once. Authenticity also requires vulnerability, the willingness to be seen as you are without pretense. Vulnerability is not weakness, it is the deepest form of courage. It means you are no longer hiding behind perfection. You can admit when you don't know, when you make mistakes, or when you are hurt without feeling diminished. You stop trying to maintain an image and start living from your essence. This openness invites real connection. Others begin to trust you, not because you are flawless, but because you are genuine, true relationships. Whether friendships, love, or community can only grow where authenticity is present. The connection between inner stillness and authenticity profound. Stillness gives you the clarity to hear your inner voice, the quiet, intuitive guidance that tells you what feels right and what doesn't. When the mind is noisy with fear or desire, that voice is drowned out. But in stillness, it becomes distinct and trustworthy. Authenticity is the act of following that voice, even when it leads you away from comfort or convention. It is the embodiment of your inner stillness in the outer world. You move through life not from reaction, but from alignment. Every choice becomes an expression of your inner truth. Embracing authenticity also brings freedom. When you stop pretending, you stop wasting energy maintaining false images. The energy once spent on pleasing others or fearing rejection is now available for creativity, growth, and purpose. You feel lighter, more alive, and more connected to life itself. Authenticity liberates you from the constant need to prove yourself. Because you understand that you already are enough, this realization transforms the way you live, work, and relate to others. The world needs authenticity more than ever. So many people are lost in imitation, trying to become someone else, afraid to express their true feelings or trapped in the expectations of society. But when you live authentically, you give others permission to do the same. your courage becomes contagious. People around you begin to feel that they too can drop their masks and live truthfully. In this way, authenticity not only awakens you, it awakens the world. However, living authentically also brings challenges. When you begin to express your truth, not everyone will understand or support you. Some may resist or criticize because your authenticity mirrors their own fears of living falsely. But this resistance is a test, a chance to strengthen your faith in your own path. When you stand firm in your truth despite opposition, you embody true inner power. You stop being swayed by external opinions and instead become guided by your inner compass. Authenticity also deepens purpose. When you live in alignment with your true self, your work and goals gain meaning. Success is no longer defined by external standards, but by the degree to which your actions reflect your inner values. You begin to seek fulfillment, not validation. Every decision becomes a step toward greater harmony between who you are and what you do. This is where life begins to feel effortless, not because it is without challenge, but because every challenge feels aligned with your soul's growth. When you live authentically, you become transparent to life itself. The universe moves through you with greater ease because there is no resistance, no false barrier between your essence and its flow. You start to experience synchronicities, moments of perfect timing, opportunities that appear naturally, people who resonate with your vibration. This is not coincidence, it is alignment. When you live your truth, life responds with support. The journey from inner stillness to authenticity is like moving from silence to song. Stillness reveals the music within you, and authenticity allows you to express it. They are inseparable. Without stillness, authenticity lacks depth. Without authenticity, stillness remains unexpressed. Together, they create harmony, peace within and truth without. Embracing authenticity, therefore, is a sacred act of honoring your inner awakening. It means no longer living as a reflection of others' expectations, but as a true expression of your own light. And once you begin to live from that truth, the next step naturally unfolds, cultivating compassion and connection, where your authentic presence expands beyond self to touch and uplift others. Through authenticity, you discover that awakening is not just about personal peace, but about radiating that peace into the world around you. After embracing authenticity, the journey of awakening deepens into something even more profound, cultivating compassion and connection. Authenticity frees you from the illusions of who you thought you had to be, and compassion opens your heart to who everyone else truly is. This stage marks a shift from the personal to the universal, from I am awakening to we are all connected. Compassion is the flowering of the awakened heart. It is the natural expression of an inner self that has transcended ego, discovered stillness, and begun to live truthfully. It is the moment when your awakening ceases to be only about self-discovery and becomes a force of healing for others. When you live authentically, your heart naturally opens. The masks you once wore fall away, and with them go the walls that separated you from others. You begin to see people not through judgment or comparison, but through understanding. You start to recognize that everyone is fighting an inner battle, that everyone carries pain, and that beneath every act of anger or fear lies a yearning for love. Compassion arises from this understanding. It is the awareness that all beings are bound by the same struggles and desires, and that in helping others, you help yourself. Compassion does not mean pity or superiority. It is not about feeling sorry for others, but about feeling with them. It is empathy in its purest form. The ability to feel another's experience as your own true compassion comes from recognizing on a deep level that there is no real separation between you and anyone else. The same consciousness that breathes within you breathes within all. When this realization dawns, kindness becomes effortless, forgiveness becomes natural, and love becomes unconditional. This stage of compassion grows directly out of the previous one, embracing authenticity. When you live truthfully, you stop judging yourself harshly, and when self-judgment softens, your judgment toward others fades as well. You no longer need to prove your worth or protect your image, so you can finally listen, understand, and love without fear. Authenticity clears the soil of your heart. Compassion is the flower that blooms from it. The more you accept yourself, the more you can accept others. The more you forgive your own past, the more you can forgive the world. Cultivating compassion also requires awareness. When you are present, you begin to notice the subtle needs of others, the pain hidden behind their words, the loneliness behind their silence. Awareness transforms your relationships. You stop reacting and start responding. Instead of feeding conflict, you become a source of peace. Instead of demanding understanding, you offer it. Compassion is not weakness. It is strength born from clarity. It is the power to love when others cannot, to stay calm when others panic, and to heal where others wound. But compassion does not mean allowing yourself to be drained or manipulated. True compassion is balanced by wisdom. It recognizes when to help and when to step back. It honors others' journeys without trying to control them. Awakening teaches that every soul has its own lessons to learn, and compassion means supporting that process without interference. It means loving people where they are, even if they are not yet where you wish them to be. Connection is the natural expansion of compassion. Once you realize that you are not separate, your sense of self broadens to include all life. You begin to feel unity with the world, with nature, with animals, with strangers you pass on the street. You sense the sacredness in everything. The sky is no longer just a backdrop. It becomes a reflection of your own vastness. The wind feels like breath, shared between you and the universe. This is not poetic exaggeration. It is the lived experience of awakening. When the inner self awakens, every boundary between me and you, mine and yours, starts to dissolve. What remains is oneness. This oneness transforms the way you live. Compassion becomes the guiding force behind your actions. You start to make choices, not only for personal benefit, but for collective good. Your work becomes service. Your goals become contributions. The awakened person does not need grand gestures to make a difference. Even small acts of kindness ripple far beyond what the eye can see. A gentle word, a moment of patience, a sincere smile. These are expressions of the inner self touching the world. Compassion also deepens your relationship with yourself. As you grow in empathy for others, you begin to understand yourself with greater gentleness. You stop criticizing your emotions or resenting your mistakes. You start treating your own wounds with the same care you would offer a friend. This self-compassion creates emotional healing, which in turn makes you more capable of loving others. The cycle feeds itself. Self-acceptance nourishes compassion, and compassion strengthens self-acceptance. The link between authenticity and compassion is vital. When you live authentically, you are transparent. You no longer hide behind roles or defenses. That openness allows true connection to occur. You no longer interact through ego, but through soul. In this connection, love flows naturally. It is no longer something you give or receive. It becomes what you are. Compassion becomes a state of being, not an act of effort. You love not because someone deserves it, but because love is your nature. This compassion also extends to life itself. You stop fighting what is. You see purpose even in pain, lessons even in loss. The awakened heart understands that every experience, pleasant or painful, is a teacher. This understanding brings peace. You no longer resist life. You embrace it. This acceptance is the highest form of compassion because it includes everything. It says even this moment, exactly as it is part of love's unfolding. Cultivating compassion and connection also has a profound effect on the world around you. Your presence begins to heal simply by existing. You radiate peace, and people around you start to feel calmer, more open, more loving. This is how true transformation happens, not through force or preaching, but through the silent influence of a heart that lives in harmony. One awakened heart can awaken many others. Compassion spreads like light. It does not diminish when shared, it multiplies. In essence, compassion and connection mark the expansion of awakening from personal enlightenment to collective harmony. You began by turning inward, seeking awareness, dissolving illusions, and discovering stillness. You learned to live authentically, and now, through compassion, you begin to merge your awakened self with the greater whole. This is the moment when spirituality becomes humanity, when personal growth becomes service, and when peace within becomes peace without. From this compassionate state, the journey moves toward its final and most transcendent stage, living in alignment with the universe. At this point, you no longer see yourself as a separate being walking through life, but as life itself expressing through you. Compassion prepares you for this unity. By opening your heart to all, you become one with all. The inner self, once hidden behind layers of ego and illusion, now expands into universal consciousness, living in harmony with the rhythm of existence. After awakening through self-awareness, shedding illusions, finding inner stillness, embracing authenticity, and cultivating compassion, the final stage in awakening the inner self is living in alignment with the universe. This is not a distant or mystical concept. It is the natural unfolding of all the steps before it. Alignment means living in harmony with life's flow, trusting its intelligence and becoming a conscious participant in its unfolding, rather than a resistant observer. It is the state where your thoughts, emotions, actions, and purpose move in sync with the universal rhythm. In this stage, life no longer feels like a struggle. It feels like a dance. You stop trying to control the music and begin to move gracefully with it. To live in alignment with the universe means to surrender to its flow without losing your sense of direction. It is not about passivity, but about cooperation. You start to understand that the universe is not working against you. It is working through you. Every event, every challenge, every coincidence carries a deeper meaning and serves your evolution. When you are aligned, you can sense this rhythm intuitively. You begin to make decisions not out of fear or impulse, but out of harmony with your inner knowing. You trust that what is meant for you will arrive, and what is not meant for you will pass. This trust brings peace, even in uncertainty. This stage grows naturally from cultivating compassion and connection. When your heart opens to others, you begin to feel the interconnectedness of all life. You realize that you are not a separate entity existing within the universe. You are part of it, woven into its fabric. The same energy that guides the stars and the tides flows through you. When compassion dissolves the illusion of separation, alignment becomes possible. You no longer see yourself as a small being trying to survive in a vast universe. You begin to see yourself as the universe expressing itself in human form. This understanding shifts everything: your perspective, your purpose, and your peace. Living in alignment means letting go of resistance. Most suffering comes from resisting what is, wanting things to be different than they are. The ego constantly fights against life, believing it knows better than the flow. It says, "This should not have happened," or "I need this to feel happy." But when you live in alignment, you begin to see that everything unfolds exactly as it should. Even pain has a purpose. Even delays are divine. You begin to view challenges not as punishments, but as teachers. Each obstacle becomes an invitation to trust more deeply. Each loss becomes a space for something greater to grow. Alignment does not remove difficulty. It transforms the way you move through it. In this state, you begin to live with ease and grace. You stop forcing outcomes and start allowing them. Instead of chasing, you attract. Instead of worrying, you listen. The universe speaks in subtle ways, through intuition, through signs, through synchronicities that seem too perfect to be coincidence. When you are aligned, you are sensitive to these signals. You feel guided not by logic alone, but by a deeper intelligence that speaks from within and beyond you. This intuitive alignment allows you to make choices that lead to peace, growth, and fulfillment. not just for yourself, but for the greater whole. Alignment also means honoring your purpose. Every soul has a unique expression, a way it contributes to the balance of the universe. Your purpose is not something you must invent. It is something you uncover when you align with your true nature. It often reveals itself through what brings you joy, what calls to your heart, or what feels naturally meaningful. When you act from this place, your energy flows effortlessly. You no longer exhaust yourself doing what is not meant for you. Instead, you find that when you walk your true path, the universe supports your steps. Opportunities arise, connections form, and events align as if by magic. But it is not magic, it is resonance. The key to living in alignment is presence. The universe exists only in the present moment. The past is memory. The future is potential. Only the now contains life's intelligence. When you live fully present, you are in direct contact with that intelligence. Every breath, every sound, every experience becomes sacred. You stop rushing toward the next thing and start immersing yourself in what is. This presence is not passive, it is vibrant and alive. It allows you to act with clarity, respond with wisdom, and create with intention. When you are aligned, even your desires transform. You no longer desire from lack, but from fullness. You no longer say, I need this to be happy. Instead, you say, I feel joy. And from that joy, I create. Desire becomes an expression of abundance rather than a symptom of emptiness. You begin to realize that what you seek is already within you, and from that realization, you naturally attract what matches your vibration. The universe mirrors your inner state. Peace attracts peace, love attracts love, chaos attracts chaos. Alignment, therefore, is not about external control, but internal harmony. Living in alignment also deepens your relationship with time and patience. You stop rushing life. You begin to see that everything unfolds in divine timing. When things don't happen as quickly as you want, you trust that they are unfolding exactly when they should. This trust dissolves anxiety and allows serenity to guide your days. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? This shift in perception is the essence of wisdom. It transforms suffering into understanding and chaos into clarity. The connection between compassion and alignment is beautiful. Compassion opens your heart to others, and alignment opens your spirit to the universe. When you love the world, you align with it. The heart that radiates compassion naturally tunes itself to life's harmony. You no longer fight against circumstances because you see the sacred pattern in all things. This harmony allows you to live peacefully among change, gracefully among uncertainty, and lovingly among all beings. Living in alignment also means embodying balance between doing and being, giving and receiving, strength and softness. You learn that true power is not about control, but about flow. You begin to act not from force, but from inspiration. Your actions feel effortless because they arise from inner clarity rather than external pressure. This is how creativity, wisdom, and love begin to move through you naturally. You become a vessel through which the universe expresses itself. In this state, life feels unified. There is no longer a division between spiritual and ordinary, between sacred and mundane. Everything becomes divine. The sunlight on your skin, the laughter of a friend, even the moments of silence between words. You realize that awakening was never about escaping life, but about merging with it completely. The universe is not something outside of you to be aligned with. It is something within you to be remembered. Ultimately, living in alignment with the universe is living as the universe. It is knowing that your heartbeat echoes the rhythm of creation, that your breath is part of the wind, that your soul is a spark of the same fire that burns in the stars. You stop seeking divinity in temples or texts and start finding it in every heartbeat, every moment, every breath. You realize that the journey of awakening was never about becoming something new, but about remembering what you have always been, an infinite being of awareness, peace, and love. This stage completes the circle of awakening the inner self. You began with self-awareness, discovering who you are beyond the surface. You then let go of illusions, freeing yourself from the ego's limits. You connected with inner stillness, found peace in silence, and embraced authenticity, expressing your truth fearlessly. Through this truth, you cultivated compassion and connection, expanding your love to include all beings. And now, through alignment, you merge completely with existence itself, living as one with the flow of life, guided not by fear but by wisdom, not by control but by trust, not by separation but by unity. This is the essence of awakening, the realization that you were never apart from the universe, only unaware of your oneness with it. Living in alignment with the universe means living as life itself, flowing effortlessly, loving unconditionally, and being eternally at peace within the vast harmony of existence.